Have you ever paid attention to how often you use the words I am? Have you ever paid attention to what comes after those words when you use them? The words I am are incredibly powerful. Maybe you haven't realized exactly how powerful they are. I'm not talking about these affirmations where you stand in front of a mirror and you tell yourself that you're pretty and you tell yourself you're strong, although that's extremely important. I'm talking about your core belief of what your identity is, what you tell yourself your identity is, what you believe your identity to be. We're going to dig into why the words I am and what comes after them are so important in the episode today. My name is Amber Fuhriman, and this is the More Than Corporate podcast. Welcome to the More Than Corporate podcast. I'm Amber Fuhriman, recovering perfectionist and serial accomplisher. If you're anything like I used to be, you've been living your life thinking that if you accomplish enough stuff, you'll finally find the success you've always wanted. But what if it's not about accomplishing more stuff? What if it's about accomplishing the right stuff? I believe you don't find success, you create it by intentionally designing the life you want and having the courage to get out of your comfort zone to live your design. I went from doing what I was supposed to do to doing what I love to do, and now I get to help others do the same. Keep listening as I chat with inspiring people who make it their mission to live their best life every day and learn how you too can live the life you've always wanted. Really quickly, before we dig into this topic, I want to remind you that this episode is brought to you by Success Development Solutions and the Design Your Life Mastermind. If you are not living the life that you absolutely love, if you keep thinking, I'll be happy when, if you keep thinking that there is a time where everything is going to fall into place, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. You only get the life you actually want to have by intentionally building the blueprint for that life and then surrounding yourself with people who can help you execute it. The Design Your Life Mastermind is created for exactly this purpose. Click underneath in the show notes to this podcast or video, whichever one you're listening to, and schedule a call to meet with me. And let's find out if you're a good fit for the Design Your Life Mastermind. And that way we can get you living the life that you've always loved instead of dreaming about it. All right, let's talk about the words I am in relation to your identity. I want to tell you a really quick story, first of all, that came to mind when I was thinking about this episode. So many of us identify to our jobs. I remember a meme that used to go around when I was in law school, and I think it probably still does, that was along the terms of, or along the lines of, being an attorney isn't what I do, it's who I am. And it was supposed to represent this pride for a profession. And there was one for all different types of professions, right? And I remember thinking, yeah, being an attorney is who I am. It's not what I do. What happens though when you can no longer be an attorney? Being a mom is who I am, being a stay-at-home mom. What happens when you're no longer a stay-at-home mom? What happens to your identity? We don't think about this enough. We create our value. We tie our value to the things that we believe we are. And so many times those things are tied to an external person, place, or thing, to an external event. This is exactly what happened with me in my journey that led to my career change or the expansion of my career, because I still do practice law and I absolutely love it. However, I also have this podcasting, speaking, coaching business on that I'm building, that I'm transforming lives because of the experiences that I've had in relation to my identity. I remember 2016 coming and me having everything that I thought I needed to have in order to be and feel successful. I had the six-figure job. I had the law degree. I was the first person in my family to go to college, and yet nothing fell into place the way that it was supposed to. 2016 was a pivotal year for me because it's the moment that I could no longer compartmentalize everything. It's the moment that my model of the world shattered, because this was the time that everything was supposed to fall into place, right? I had done everything right according to the model of the world that I lived in. So why am I not happy? Why do I not feel successful? Why am I not enough? I started going to therapy because of my reaction to this realization that life didn't turn out as expected. And I really needed some help to process through that. I needed help to process through the panic. I needed help to process through the anxiety of who the hell am I? And about 6 months into therapy, I remember my therapist asking me, I told her, I said, I don't feel successful. I'm so tired of feeling like a failure. And she fed back to me all the amazing things about my career, about my life. She said, you support yourself. You have a 6-figure income. You're an attorney. You're the first person in your family to go to college. You don't rely on anybody else. What exactly does success mean to you? And I said, I don't know. And as I started trying to answer that question, I started challenging that identity that I had created of being an attorney. I started to realize that my entire value as a human being to me was tied up in that attorney, right? If I wasn't an attorney, then what was I? If I could no longer be an attorney, then what possible value could I bring to somebody's life? Well, that's incredibly taxing on relationships. It's incredibly taxing on yourself and your self-worth and your ability to live the life that you've always wanted. The mind works in these mysterious ways where we will believe what we tell ourselves, right? So we're the easiest person to lie to. How many times have you wanted something? You've wanted to either go buy something or you've wanted to go do something, and you spend that time in your head rationalizing why it's a good idea. And eventually you convince yourself that that's what you absolutely need to do. So many times we need that other person in our life to help us with that conversation. We need that unbiased opinion to say, hey, is this really what you need or want? Or is this really what's going to get you to where you want to go? Or by the way, where is it that you want to go? When we say things to ourselves, we believe it. So we're the easiest person to lie to, which means when we say, I am, and we follow that sentence with something, we believe it. Similarly, when we say, I'm not, we believe that too. How many times have you heard somebody say, I can't go to the gym, I'm just not an athlete? How many times have you heard somebody say, man, I wish I could be that outgoing, but that's just not who I am? How many times have maybe you said, I wish I could be like that, but that's just not me? When did we decide that? When did we decide that those limits were a part of our identity? And when are we going to make the decision that they don't have to be anymore? This is what's really cool about the words I am. You can decide what you put after them. You can decide what goes next. Our energy goes where our focus flows. Think about that for just a minute. What do you focus on the most? So many people may focus on a negative aspect and say, see, I told you, like I was right to focus on it because it just happened. Well, did it happen or did you create it by that's all you were focusing on? Because there were all of these other opportunities around you that you missed because you were focused on that thing that you were paying attention to, that thing that you were just sure was going to happen. Well, think of our identity. There's so many opportunities that present itself to us every single day. And we miss out on those opportunities because we have at some point in time convinced ourselves that we are not the person that can take advantage of those. I love the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you guys have not read this book, you absolutely should. And one of the things that he talks about in that book is the idea of changing who you are so that you can have what you want to have. And I've talked about this in prior episodes. I talk about it in my mastermind. I talk about it in the productivity challenge that I have. When we set goals, we by definition are not the person who could accomplish those goals right now. Because if we were, we would already have them. The reality is if our goals are big enough, we have to grow into the person who is capable of accomplishing what needs to be accomplished in order to have what we want to have. So how do we do that? James has a really good example in Atomic Habits where he talks about somebody quitting smoking. He says, if you take two people and they're trying to quit smoking or they're working on quitting smoking, Pay attention to the difference between these two people. Somebody's offered a cigarette to the first one, and he says, "No, thank you. I'm trying to quit." What does that say about him? That says that he is a person who smokes who is trying to change that behavior. Now let's go to person number two. He's offered a cigarette and he says, "No, thanks. I'm not a smoker." What does that say about him? He is not the type of person who smokes. It makes those shifts in our habits and our behaviors so much easier when we identify with the person who does what we want to accomplish. One of my favorite people ever that I've ever heard talk has this amazing TED Talk. It's CEO Charlie Jabaley. And he talks about how when he started to lose weight, when he started to do this career change, he looked at himself as an athlete. He changed on his Instagram page in his bio, "I am an athlete." He was ridiculously overweight. But he had heard Nike say, "If you have a body, you are an athlete." And he said, "Hey, I'm an athlete." And then he started acting like one. We have to believe that we are the person who can achieve what we want to have. Otherwise, we've lost the game from the very, very beginning. So think about these goals, right? We all set goals. How do you accomplish them? So many times, you guys know I've been on a health journey. I'm on a weight loss journey, and I don't like the weight loss idea. I like the health journey. So I'm on this health journey, and I could fight it and say, and believe me, I have fought it. Just to be clear, and say I'm not a person who eats healthy. I'm not a person who goes to the gym, but I am. Right? I love healthy food. I love going to the gym. You guys know how big of a part Tough Mudder played in my journey. I love being active. So why do I diminish that part of who I am? It's to feed this idea that I've put this limit on what I'm capable of. How many times have you done that to yourself? Put a limit on what you're capable of by convincing yourself that you are not someone. And I'll tell you, it was really interesting to me because I just recently started doing some kickboxing classes again. I did martial arts when I was younger and I really missed it. And I was looking for something that would reignite that fire for me. So I recently just started kickboxing again. And I remember talking to the person that signed me up for this gym. And I was telling him about my background. And he goes, "Man, you're an athlete." And I had to step back and say, "You know what? You're right. I am an athlete." And that was one of the first times that I had ever been like, "Well, I used to be," right? The first thing I wanted to say was, "I used to be an athlete. I'm not anymore." And I stepped back and I realized that being an athlete is a mindset, not a physical appearance. Being an athlete is how hard are you willing to work for something? Are you willing to push through the things that hurt to get to what you want to have? Are you willing to make the choices that you need to make to have what it is you want to have? And if what it is you want to have requires getting in the gym 3 to 5 to 7 days a week, it's a hell of a lot easier to do that if you're an athlete than if you're not. So I'm an athlete. It's really interesting what happens when we pay attention to what comes after the words "I am." I would really encourage you to really think about those words. Become consciously aware of when you use those words, what you identify as, and whether that's really what you want to be identifying as. When you set goals, the first thing that you should ask yourself is, who do I have to become to achieve this? If you want to grow a business, you have to become somebody who is good at business. You have to become somebody who is comfortable with sales. You have to become somebody who is comfortable talking to people and networking. So you can either tell yourself, I'm really trying to make this work and happen. Or you can tell yourself, I'm a business owner and I'm a business owner that likes to network. And I know that my product is valuable. So I'm a business owner that is okay reaching out to people and doing cold calls because I know that what I'm providing to somebody is of value and will transform their life. Which one sounds easier to work with for you? Be very, very, very careful of what comes after the words "I am." because whatever comes after the words I am for you is the reality that you're going to create for yourself. Always remember, guys, that you have the ability to design a life that you have always wanted, and you owe it to yourself to get out of your comfort zone and live it. And if you have questions on how to make that happen, just a reminder, this episode is brought to you by the Success Development Solutions and the Design Your Life Mastermind. Click that Calendly link below. Let's talk about what it is that you want to accomplish and how we can change your identity to help you get it. Have a fantastic week, guys. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the More Than Corporate podcast. If anything that was said during this episode resonated with you or provided value in any way, it would mean the world to me if you would head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review for the More Than Corporate podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that. I'm really looking forward to connecting with you. If you'd also like to connect, I've created a Facebook group that is full of amazing people who also make it their mission to live their best life every single day. If that sounds like something that you're interested in, the name of that Facebook group is Success Center. Head over there, request to join, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.